If you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Would you,
I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others. Certainly about the way he died. It would be interesting to find out what happened there.
That was President Trump previously saying that he would be open to declassifying the Epstein files, even as he expressed some reluctancy in doing so. But compare it to the full court press that we saw at the White House, not just tonight, but over the last few weeks, to stop a vote from happening here on Capitol Hill, at least in the House, to release the files and call for it. My political sources are joining me tonight, including Bakari Sellers, who was a Democratic state lawmaker in South Carolina, and Scott Jennings, a senior advisor to Mitch McConnell. And Scott, I think a question is, if that is how Trump felt in October 2024, how do you explain what happened in November 2025 today?
Well, look, he said back then, if there's people in here that have names in documents, but they didn't do anything wrong, if they're phony, that was the word he used. I think he has some reticence about potentially publicly implicating people in something that they had nothing to do with, or they broke no laws, or what have you. So, look, ultimately, they're going to have to use their judgment on whether they want to release documents that have people's names on it that may have done nothing wrong, but then would be smeared by the release of this. I mean, ultimately, it sounds like some things are going to come out. I find it curious, frankly, that the House Democrats today released these emails on the very day that we were supposed to be talking about the government reopening because the Democrats caved. Magically, these emails appear, but you can draw your own conclusions from that.
Bakari, what do you make of that timing?
Oh, the timing is because of the simple fact that we had enough people to sign on to a discharge petition because government is now open, and Mike Johnson actually did his job and seat every elected member of the House Democratic Caucus. And so when you have 218 members who can sign that discharge petition, it was timely. I appreciate Scott attempting to defend President Trump on this, but let's recall that Donald Trump is the first person who asked for the release of the Epstein files dating back to 2015. When he first started running for president of the United States. And now, because his name is fluttered throughout the Epstein files, he doesn't want to release it. They even made a mockery of their own supporters, influencers who came out holding up little trapper keepers filled with what they called to be Epstein files Part 1. And so I just find this very hard to believe. He's made a fool of the Attorney General. He's made a fool of conservative influencers. Now he just thinks he can make a fool of the American people. Just release the files and move on if you have nothing to hide.
Well, there was a moment today, speaking of seating Adelita Grijalva, where she was being sworn in by the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. I think it's worth everyone seeing how that played out today. I just want everyone to watch that moment that happened here a couple of hours ago.
Handshake. Yeah. We'll leave the camera to it.
Wow, that's a big one.
Congresswoman, why did it take so long to get sworn?
Thank you guys. That would be another, that would not be my question.
Look, I really like this lady. She's going to be an excellent member of Congress.
Scott, what do you make of that moment?
I agree with Speaker Johnson. She seems like a lovely person. I think she's going to be a great member, and I'm glad she finally got sworn in, and now that district has representation, and she's here to act on the will of her district. So I think like the Speaker, I wish her all the best.
Bakari?
Gamesmanship. Mike Johnson has advocated his duty the past couple of weeks when we're talking about the shutdown. One of the things he could have done was actually seat a duly sworn in member of or duly elected member of Congress, which he did not. I mean, you think about this. For the past month, that district in Arizona had no representation, and she had already won her race. I think it's a travesty, and I think that it sows a lot of distrust in the American public.
Well, and, obviously Mike Johnson said when the government reopened that he would swear her in. That's what we saw tonight. But can we talk about, Scott, in these emails, it wasn't just the ones that mentioned Trump that were released. There were a ton of them that were released, corresponding with other people between Jeffrey Epstein, including one from June 2019, which that date is obviously notable. And it was when Trump was making his state visit to the United Kingdom. He was welcomed by the former Prince Andrew, who is now just Andrew. And Jeffrey Epstein wrote to Steve Bannon at the time and said, "Prince Andrew and Trump today, too funny." And then he added, "Recall Prince Andrew's accuser came out of Mar-a-Lago." Obviously, that's a reference to Virginia Giuffre. And Bannon replied, "I can't believe nobody is making you the connective tissue." I mean, Scott, when you read that and see, Trump in 2019 saying he didn't know Prince Andrew, obviously they had been photographed together. I wonder what you make of what else we learned in terms of the powerful people around Jeffrey Epstein at this time and what's coming out in these emails.
Yeah, look, I don't dispute there were powerful people around him. Most of them were leftists and globalists. And, Donald Trump, I don't think really had anything to do with it. The lady that you mentioned, Virginia, had said before that she'd only, I think, met Donald Trump once, and he was a perfect gentleman and didn't do anything untoward at all. And so, again, I think these things are being thrown out to try to smear Donald Trump, obviously, to try to change the subject away from the Democratic failures for having shut down the government for 43 days and inflicted pain on the American people. But nothing that I have seen in any of these documents prove anything, tell me anything. No one's ever disputed that Donald Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, we've known that for years and years and years. We knew that yesterday. We know it today. And I just don't think, frankly, Kaitlan, the American people, when they're looking at the pantheon of issues they've got going on right now, I just don't think this one ranks in that high for them.
Scott Jennings, Bakari Sellers, I want you guys to stick around. We are expected to see President Trump any moment now. He's going to be signing that bill to end the government shutdown here on Capitol Hill and formally reopen the government. Bakari and Scott will be right back with us as we are going to go live to the White House.